we need to make 2 videos. We need to make a video about nutrition in the aspect of the state, right? And explain where we think the problem is, why we are all stuck in that chemistry over. We'll explain basically, but we have 2 videos to make, and so if you have questions and everything, bring it on. We want to use this to release it on YouTube. That way we can use the discussion, but basically it's an open discussion, so which means we'll interrupt each other all the time, and whatever questions you have, bring it on.
We'll interrupt them too.
Yes, and then back and forth, right? That's the point. So basically, we'll shoot the video, but it'll be like an open conversation about this. Cool. We only want to start nutrition first.
Yeah.
Or state versus chemistry.
State versus. I was just talking to Jari actually about learning, and inside where there's this book called Spark, and they list all these studies, and they had a school that was like among the worst at math. And what they started to do is they gave the kids the responsibility to spend 45 minutes a day doing any kind of movement that would bring them to around 80% of their heart rate, because it was shown that it would trigger neurogenesis and have all these chemical effects and everything. But basically what they did is they told the kids, like, your hardest subject that you have the most difficulty with, which was math mainly, and also the tests for that subject, do them right after you do the 45 minutes of basically cardio.
Yep.
And that has always stuck with me, because it goes like, it shows, you know, you do this thing and then for some reason you get neurogenesis and then for some reason you can learn. And I just hit the inside and went like, oh, right, so they have them do flow for 45 minutes. They specify this is how you get flow, 80% of your heart rate, you know, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And then they did the test, and suddenly they were able to perform the abstract task of math much higher. And within a few months they were like among the best school. And it's the state of the nervous system, and then you have action, performance.
Are we on? Do you want to go state first then, or nutrition first? Up to you.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well, we'll split it into different talk.
Yeah.
You want to go state first?
Nutrition, because I just had lunch in the right state, which was interesting because I was like getting the prize. I came out of fight and I was just gathering. I was like, I'll have this and I'll have that. I won the fight. I get the prize.
There you go.
So one thing that I find very interesting is that I no longer had a lot of food intolerances when I started doing fasting. So I always had, if I follow the normal advice, which is, you know, no matter how you feel, you just eat at this moment, at that moment, at that moment, and then a few snacks in between. And then I wasn't able to process mostly dairy and most of the processed sugars, and I had some issues with random things, like sometimes it was bread, gluten, sometimes it was different things. And then I switched to intermittent fasting, and this is not necessarily that I'm pro intermittent fasting, but the point is that I was going to a state first and then ate.
Okay, so let's make it easy on people. So what we're talking about is that basically there's a, depending on the state you're in, you should eat a certain way.
You can eat, you can process a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. So let's explain first, and that way you can go into the chemistry of it. So we have 2 states. There's the parasympathetic, right? And then there's a sympathetic. With it, so in the parasympathetic, we have what we call flow and freeze, right? And in the sympathetic, where we have to call fight and flight. So what we were saying is that most of the healthy food that they tell you are healthy are not always the simplest to digest, right?
Yeah.
And should be eaten here. So let's start with that. What happens if we eat them?
It's important to understand first that which of the systems are triggered, right? So if you go to the sympathetic state, there's a certain set of functions that you need from your body. Evolutionarily makes perfect sense because you are going out to hunt, gather, you know, protect, fight, run away from a bear, whatever. So what you need there is you need your senses heightened, you need your breathing fast, you need your heart rate up. But it wouldn't make any sense to have a lot of energy going to digestion because you're still going out to get the food.
So that means that digestion is down.
Digestion is down, and everything that has to do with sensory processing and energy production is up. Which also means that a part of your immune system is down, interestingly. So anyway, you go out, you get it done, you protect your territory, you hunt the food, you kill the animal, whatever it might be, you bring the food back in, then you sit down, your senses narrow down a little bit. You go into staring mode, right? You start to feel your stomach growl, your mouth starts to water, and that shift is the only one we know that, and people watching, people listening can go like, oh, I'm going parasympathetic now, when they feel their mouth water and you feel your stomach growl, like, I'm going parasympathetic. It's a shift from one state to the other. It means that you're getting prepared. You can't have both at the same time. It's very difficult. I mean, you know, if you have a giant meal, how much do you feel like going for a workout, right? Not at all.
Yep.
But after you have a giant workout, how much do you feel like a big meal? A lot, right? So it's different
But that
states.
depends though, because if you finish a workout in a sympathetic state, you notice people don't want to eat at all.
Well,
we had
or
both.
they just want to eat sugar.
Exactly. So, but it depends. I had workouts where I didn't want to eat at all.
Yeah.
Which basically, because I was not in a state where I could digest, so
Yeah.
my body was like, nope.
Like, if you kill somebody on the sled, they are nauseous. They want to throw up.
Yep.
Which is the extreme version of that. There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Because the stress was
everything
so
needs
high.
to go.
Yeah, the stress is so high. So that's basically your body telling you that you cannot digest anything, and so that you basically should not be eating.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is that if you finish a super workout in a sympathetic state, you cannot digest. So that anabolic window, if you finish in sympathetic, does not exist.
Yeah.
It's being cancelled.
Well, so if you exit your workout and notice your heart rate is up, you're not really ready for anything, and people go like, I can't have anything after my thing, but I have to eat.
Yep.
So I take this protein shake that I can process, and with the increased heart rate, their eyes still going like crazy, like all over the place, they quickly have the protein shake.
So what happens if I eat, like let's say I go super sympathetic after my workout, I don't want to eat because my stress is up. What happens if I eat?
Well,
Because
there's
I
two
can't
options.
digest it. Yeah.
So if you're fully sympathetic, and you eat, no matter what it is, well, if you eat something healthy like a big meal, there's two options. Either it turns you parasympathetic,
Yep.
so you were all active and then you eat it and then you go like, I should lay down for a nap, which is the smart thing to do, because then you're
Yep.
actually doing what your body needs,
Yep.
and you're using the food as a trigger to go into that
Yep.
state.
But
Or you
most
go,
likely-
now I ate, but I have to answer 1,000 emails and
Yep.
get shit done and take 5 espressos, and I just go in there, and then you can't actually process the food. Which, a few things where you can't properly digest it, so you don't get everything out of
But
it.
then it's an aggression to your body,
It's an aggression to your body. It's
which
more
makes
stress.
things worse.
It makes it worse. So you
We
actually
should
have,
digest less, which makes it worse.
yeah. And so every time you put something in your body from the outside, it needs to be scanned by the immune system to make sure there's no pathogens in there. So every time you eat anything, you have an inflammatory response, which just means that stuff's coming in, the immune system is like, let's raise the guard and make sure there's nothing scary or evil, and then you're fine. Right? It's another reason why you get really tired after eating.
Okay, so that means that, so just to say, there is an anabolic window. It just doesn't exist here. That window is only going to be on that side. So if you force yourself to eat while in sympathetic, you won't be able to digest. The more you eat, the more it's an aggression to the system, the less you can digest. Is basically you get into worse
I can
and worse
imagine
and
that
worse.
there's an anabolic window in fight, but not in flight. I could
So-
imagine that you can that you would be
But
able
so
to go.
the key is not that, the key would be like, so it's not about not eating after the workout. The key is to not be in that state after the
Exactly.
workout. Because if you end up in sympathetic after your workout, you won't be able to digest. We want you to eat, but you're just not capable.
Well, not properly, and that's also why if you are stressed, you crave things that are easily digestible. That's like the main thing that I teach people about this stuff. They ask me, "What do I eat? What do we eat? What are your macros? What are your what is your multivitamin?" The first question is, "How do you feel when you eat?" Right. So, and people who have issues with sugar addictions, they usually also have anxiety problems or chronic stress, which means that if you're always sympathetic, of course you crave fast digestible sugars because you need a lot of energy, because your body is in this state where your liver
Well,
constantly wants to
plus, it's
secrete
probably the only
glucose.
thing you can digest. Since your digestion is
Yeah.
down, the only thing you can digest is highly digestible food,
That's
which
the thing,
is
so-
highly glycemic.
Highly glycemic foods and starches, they start to digest already like in your mouth while you're chewing them. You already take them
So
up.
we could say that if you're going to finish your workout there, it's actually better for you to have a highly glycemic meal than, let's say, broccoli and stuff that are hard to digest.
Well, they've shown this that after you, like especially if you train like fasted and you have you deplete all the glycogen, then you have the sugary stuff first and you get this big insulin dump, and then you start adding the protein and stuff like that. So there's multiple studies to this. But then we're already talking about chemistry, right?
No,
so
but that's the
eventually you
point,
go
because
there.
I want to start there because people need to understand that means that, because I'm not saying that people should have sugar after they train, because basically what I want them to change is I want them to change the state
Yes.
when they finish training so that they can have a full digestion and eat
So-
the good stuff. But that also means that if for whatever reason you did not change the state and you end up here, a big meal is going to do worse for you than actually having sugar.
Of course. Imagine you have your CrossFit, your last WOD at like 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Your heart rate is up, you're stressed, you eat a giant meal because you're supposed to refeed or whatever, and then you're laying in bed with a brick in your stomach, your heart rate's up, and you're worrying about your to-do list of tomorrow. That food is of no use in that state.
Yeah.
What is your body going to do with that food?
So in a weird way, sugar then would be better than the full healthy meal that you're supposed to have because of your state.
So you either support the state by eating sugar and like high glycemic stuff, or you have the healthy meal,
or you change the state and then you have the healthy
That's
meal.
the point.
So if you want to eat healthy, that means you have to change the state.
You have to be in the healthy state
So
for eating.
am I saying that having sugar is a healthy thing? No. But if you want to eat healthy, you're going to have to change the state.
Yeah, but
first.
so that's the point, that people want to go like, this food, is it healthy or unhealthy?
Exactly.
This thing. So
it's not that simple.
And that's not how it works.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you eat? So the point is here, so the last year I've grown a lot of muscle. I've had hardly any muscle soreness, except for when I do something new or when I mess up. Basically, I don't enter an inflow. Because last year around September, we learned how to trigger the regenerative state at the end of the workout. So the regenerative state means that you go back into the cave, right? You go parasympathetic. Your body is ready to digest food. It's willing to digest food. And there have been studies that have shown that the inflammatory response is minimal. So it's at the least if you do a fast, a workout, and then a meal. Then you have just a tiny bit of inflammation that scans the food, make sure there's nothing bad in there, and then it just digests much better, right? So you trigger the state, which is a natural state for eating, because, you know, doing your work in the morning and then having a hard workout is like being the hunter, going out for the hunt, making the kill, and then having the food. And what's interesting is that most hunter-gatherer tribes, if they make the kill, they don't eat immediately. They have a ritual before they eat. And what's the one thing that we lost?
Lions never eat right away. They have to bring themselves down first. Yeah, they always go.
They do that.
The lions go for like a full 2 minutes before they can eat.
And that's how they lose heat, right? So their heart rate is up, their temperature is way too high, so they have all of their the blood flows change because of thermoregulation. They have to cool down, right? They have to calm down. Heart rate is down, and then they can digest the food.
So they change their state first.
And you see this. This is the great thing about principles, that you see them in nature everywhere, and they keep working. And so what we lose in the Western world, one giant thing we lost in Western society is ritual around food, right? So having a TV, like coming home from work rushed and having a TV dinner, the dinner doesn't become evil because it's not necessarily because the food, but because it's not in the way we're supposed to.
So we have to explain. We always say quality of the food first and all that stuff. But the fact is, if you're stuck in traffic in between two meetings, chocolate will be better than broccoli.
Well, that's the example that I always use. That unless you're like on your way home and you're super chill in the car and you go like, oh, I have so much time to eat and chew my food now.
You have not lived in LA, that's what you're saying. Because you are never chill in
Los
the car.
Angeles
in
is
Los
different.
Angeles ever.
Yeah,
But,
you're never chill, no. Well, everybody's on their phone and smoking weed nowadays, but
that's Holland.
That's LA. That's LA. I was there just
I like
recently.
Holland.
Yeah, well, me too. Holland over LA. But that's the thing. Like we go like, I should eat at this time because my nutritionist told me.
Yes.
And that's what Richard said this yesterday. Like 12 weeks ago, my powerlifting programmer said I was supposed to lift this weight tomorrow. 12 weeks ago, the programming didn't know that I had a bad night. And the same thing goes like, you know, my nutritionist tells me I have to have this number of whatever protein at this moment, but nutritionist doesn't know that I'm, you know, I had a really tough conversation with my boss, and I have to go home to have a fight with my wife, and I'm stuck in traffic, I'm running late, I'm fucking pissed.
So
then you eat the food and you can't digest
it. You would say that each state has its own chemistry, basically.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But so that means that if you're there and you cannot change that state, then you have to eat accordingly to this.
Well, or leave the state.
Exactly, but so
everybody goes like, so I go really hard in the gym and then afterwards I have a bunch of sugar. Well, you could do that, but the point is that you're eating to support the state. This is why I tell people, this is my favorite tip to give people about nutrition. And I say, replace one snack at your low point in the day for a nap. So so you're at that point where you feel like you can't really go on anymore. So what do? You take the Red Bull, the espresso, the quick sugary snack to keep yourself going up. Or you take a 10-minute nap where you go down completely, right? So you actually go regenerative, go into recovery for a minute. And then you don't need the espresso or the whatever
some
anymore.
People don't always have the luxury to be able to switch state and everything. They don't know how to do it.
I used to hide in the fucking toilet to meditate.
I know, but
before
like,
lunch.
imagine, because we have
Yeah.
to deal with people that are between 2 meetings or 2 workouts in competition.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of the CrossFit game and they stress as fuck.
Yeah.
Some can go sleep, others are going to stay like that. And that moment is not the good one for me to tell them go take a nap.
No.
But so that means that eating, for example, stuff that are hard to digest in between those workouts where they stress is the worst thing they can do. It's the healthiest.
Well,
but
if you
in a
have
way, it's not
your
healthy.
ultra, raw superfood kill salad, that's not going to be of much use because you don't
On
need
the
it.
contrary.
Okay, imagine you're running
Yeah.
from a bear, right?
Yeah.
If you're running from a bear, the bear is like behind. You come to a point in the forest and there's magically a broccoli or there's a piece of chocolate. Everybody always goes for the chocolate. But
Yeah.
the point is, or let's say a broccoli
Yeah.
or a banana,
Yeah.
right? You go for the fast sugars because that's what will allow you to keep the state and to keep running. Because even when
and
you're stressed, you
sometimes
can
you need
digest
to
it.
keep that state. If I'm in
Yes,
between
yeah.
two workouts and I need to do a maximum sympathetic effort, like a max power snatch or whatever, then I need to keep myself in that
Yeah.
state. I can't go there. So that means I would have to go for the sugar.
Well,
but that they'll tell you that's an unhealthy choice, which
Yeah.
actually in that state is healthier than the healthy food that would actually create a problem with digestion and your immune system and everything.
Yeah, and then you crash. That's the problem.
And but then you're
Crash.
gonna have an immune response and everything. It's actually going to do damage to your body.
Yeah.
To have a broccoli at that moment. That's the part that people don't see.
Absolutely.
So maybe you were saying like the problem with fast food, it's not just the food, it's the fast.
It's the fast. It's the fast part. It's both, of course.
of
It's
course,
both.
but the
There has
fast,
to be
but
a-
it's the fast part as well.
Yeah.
There is nothing. So there is
Everybody
no
knows
healthy
fast food is unhealthy,
that
but
you
it's-
eat fast.
Yes.
You cannot have any. There's
that
no
you could
food
eat fast.
that you can eat fast.
Yeah.
No, you will, but then it's going to fuck you up. So therefore, it's not healthy.
Exactly. It's not healthy anymore.
Yep.
So the state in which you eat it determines how healthy it is. And people, you can test this stuff. Everything we talk about, you can just go out and test it. I mean, try it out. Just see how stressed your body feels or how relaxed you feel. And I think that everybody wants to label things as healthy or unhealthy. And it's really easy to go, that's healthy and that's not healthy. And if I have that state where I come out of a really intense day of teaching, for example, and I want to have a really heavy workout and I have a salad, I'm not going to have that salad because it's going to crash me. But if I need to eat anything, I'll go for, whatever, something that's high in sugar.
Yeah,
and
that
then
is
because
highly
people
glycemic,
think I'm
yeah.
some kind of health guru just because I talk about this stuff, and they go like, no, you can't drink a can of Monster, Kasper, you can't do it. You can't have a can of Coke. And I go, oh, why not? Because it's unhealthy. Why? Right? So I'm not trying to promote products that are, there are things that are inherently, of course, less healthy than others. But the question
And it's
is,
the quality of the food that matters as well.
and it's also the quality,
The quality
of the
of
choice.
the sugar, yeah.
So how conscious are you with the choice when you make it? Do you know which state you're getting from the food? Because I know, so what I've done a lot is introduce things in a fasted state and then take an hour to be present with what I feel, right? Not even
Okay, so you're
necessarily
talking about like
meditate.
some kind of an allergy test for food, knowing which one
It's
you
not-
do well.
yeah.
Because, well, let's say, so red meat can be healthy, but if I can't digest it, then it's not healthy for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course you have like a massive thing here that has to do with the gut biome and all of that. But if you know what you can process and what you can't, the thing you can process is going to be healthier,
healthier than the one you
thing
cannot
you
process,
can't.
yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
even if the specific micronutrient makeup is better than that one, if your body can't
Not
take
for
it
you.
up,
Yeah, exactly.
there's no use in
Because
having
the second you feel it's an aggression, you stop digestion, so you're not getting the macros anyway.
it. And you can even do this with range of motion testing, which is fun. A fun thing to do. If you just do like a forward fold like that, and you just see how far you go, right? And then you introduce something, anything. If it puts load into the nervous system, if it puts intensity into the nervous system, you're going to have less of the range of motion.
So you mean with food? You could do a bend forward in internal torque, eat something, not to fill your stomach, but eat something, see if you have a reaction, see how far you take the internal torque.
Eat a little bit. And the funny thing is, usually you can test, I've done this a few times, which is just anecdotal, of course. Obviously, don't believe anything I say just because I say it. But
You steal that
I
from
have
me.
this experience.
You just totally stole that from me. But whatever.
I've been saying it for years, man.
Yeah.
I think
Oh shit!
you can go back on YouTube and watch me say it.
I will.
I know. That's your free time you can spend that way.
Yes, I will.
What was I saying? Right. So in my experience, I would have the mobility result before I would have digested the food. So you know it's going to take about 20 minutes to actually digest the food.
Yep.
So if that would be chemical makeup, so let's say eat something and 3 minutes later I notice I have less range of motion or more from it, it can be the actual chemistry coming from the food into my system that has created that improve or decrease in.
So talking about that, so since it's relating to the state of the nervous system, we know HRV can, so heart rate variability can test where we are in the nervous system.
Yeah.
So that means that we could test the allergy to food with HRV.
Yeah, there's people who do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you introduce a food and you see how heart rate variability change.
So we could create an entire system based on that. Because I'm thinking about force feeding, because that's something people that fast basically eat a lot. Tremendous. Could you test with HRV when that moment in a meal becomes too much food?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to
so.
see if we could do that. Because force feeding would trigger eventually the sympathetic state.
Yeah, so the great thing is that anything that happens in your life is processed. Yeah. That's just a good thing to know. Like if you can't selectively numb anything. If you ignore something, you ignore it, but it's still there. So that means that if everything's processed, there is a reaction to everything that you do. Yeah. But most of them are subconscious because it wouldn't make sense to always be conscious of every response you have to the wind. But if I now say, your skin is super sensitive to the temperature of the wind, everybody who sits here is now going like, oh man, you're right.
I can feel the wind.
Right, because you move your attention around. So that's how that works. But everything that comes in is being processed. If it is a stressor, for example, the range of motion test is going to change, but also the heart rate variability is going to change right away. So you can see whether something is a stressor or not. So that's why I've stopped telling people what to eat for a really long time and just tell them like, get a heart rate variability is getting better and better to test, but even just sitting and watching your state happen.
No, but you know how people are. Some people want a testing mechanism. I had that conversation for a while, not so long ago. But it would be cool to see if HRV, we could see exactly how much food could you ingest in one setting for you before you start to go sympathetic, because then it would kill your digestion. Yeah. If we have a way to measure the nervous system correctly between
and we can put that all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant out of business. We know exactly when to stop and when to start again.
Exactly, yeah. You're fasted, yeah. But that'd be cool to see if we have a test to go from here to there.
Let's go.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
Because then you would know exactly how to eat the best way.
The good thing about that is that you're no longer, so when we do quantification, the reason I don't like quantification is because it doesn't teach you how to feel. You basically teach away from interoception. Yeah. So, but now if you can measure state. So that's what the way that I use heart rate variability is to get a benchmark
for the state.
For the state. So I go, okay, so if I feel like this, that's the number. If I feel like that, that's the number. And then I didn't need the measuring tool
because
anymore.
then we can, so we would just measure knowing that the chemistry follows the state. If we could just measure the state, then we know whatever chemistry comes after. That simplifies things tremendously.
Yeah, so then you can
just know, as long as you know which state you're in, you're good.
Yeah, so because then quantification becomes a tool for strengthening intuition instead of for moving you away from.
To know which state you're in, exactly. So now so we don't measure the chemistry, we measure the state.
Yeah. And that's one of the most powerful things you can have, because then if that works in your social norm, but me and Frank do it all the time. We have a meeting, and if one of us is not in the state for the meeting, we go do something. We go, I'm not in the right state. And
but that's the point. Yeah.
Well, we could do it more often, but I mean, in general,
we will do it more often.
This is like, I'm not in the right state, which is a completely different way. It helps with everything, because then you can actually say, I'm not in this state, but I will get there. I'm committed to getting there, instead of just being a dick about it.
We're going to have to explain to people the 4 states and everything, because like right now we're talking about state, but at home they're all going to go, okay, but what state is that? How do I get there? How do I know the difference between all this? So we'll have to do a video about that one as well.
You'll have to buy the special. No, but everybody knows that there's different states.
Do the mentoring program.
The United States of the nervous system. Do the mentoring program, and it'll be just as chaotic as this.
But ask them. It's like, I still don't know.